Hello, I am Yuan Fu. Today, I will present the work of using citation bias to guide better sampling of scientific literature. My co-authors are Jasmine Yuan and Jody Schneider. We're all from the School of Information Sciences, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, USA. First, I want to talk about the big picture problem. Most readers can only read a fraction of papers written on a topic, and the highly cited article first heuristic is commonly used but does not select a balanced set of evidence. So, for example, certain papers, such as papers reporting statistically significant results and papers supporting a hypothesis are more likely to be cited without being more valid science. Moreover, when there is a controversy about a topic, papers holding one opinion prefers to cite papers holding the same opinion, and such homophily in citation can give reader the impression that no controversy exists. Therefore, our goal is to create a method that can help literature users sample diverse research articles without having to read all of them. We will use network analysis and visualization to achieve our goal. The network we'll use is called the claim-specific network. In this network, all papers address one research problem. For example, whether reducing salt intake is beneficial at population level. And those papers are connected by the citation relationships among them. This network is a subgraph of the entire citation network. And what is significant about it is that it shows the communication of ideas and establishment of belief regarding a scientific problem. And we will utilize the information hidden in the network structure. As the title of our paper suggests, we will use insight from citation bias studies and approach the problem from two angles. The first one is about how other papers cite a given paper. We want to identify papers that get far fewer citation count than expected in case they represent marginalized views. We call those papers insufficiently cited papers. The second one is about how a given paper chooses other papers to cite. We want to identify papers that do not belong to any homophily groups in case they represent unique views about a question, and we call those papers unique papers. The metric that we designed to find insufficiently cited papers is the ratio between real and expected citation count. By normalizing by the expected citation count, we remove the effect of early papers naturally getting more citations than later papers. And the trick is really calculating the expected citations. Currently, we are using a very crude approximation. We define the expected citation count as the number of citations a paper would receive if all papers in the network published 2 years or more later cited it. The metric we designed to find the unique papers is called relative evidence coupling strength. So this metric resembles the relative bibliographic coupling strength, but only consider items within the claim-specific network. So we give it a different name. It is defined as the percentage of overlapping items in the collective set of cited items between a pair of nodes. As you can see in the three examples shown below, in the first case, node X and node Y share 0 items among the 4 items, and then the value is 0. In the second example, node X and Y share 2 items. That's all they have, so the value is 1. And in the third example, node X and Y share 2 items, out of the 6 items they own together, so the value is 1/3. I also want to talk a little bit more about why we come up with the second metric. This metric is inspired by an observation we made in a study of disagreement between systematic reviews. We found that systematic reviews that synthesize different evidence sets reach different conclusions. And for example, here, SR13 and SR14 come to different conclusions regarding the question whether reducing dietary salt is beneficial at the population level. And we can see that the value of relative evidence coupling strength is about 0.3. Therefore, we thought if a paper's opinion is sort of revealed by what it cites, then we can use the similarity of cited items in the claim specific network to infer the similarity of their opinion. Again, we come back to the notion that claim specific network shows the communication of ideas and establishment of scientific belief regarding a question. After designing our metric, we apply them to a claim-specific network based on a published dataset. The claim is that a gene known as 5-HTTL-PR is associated with the risk of developing depression after stressful life events. The bias is that papers holding positive stance on the claim receive more citations than papers holding negative stance, despite the fact that evidence supporting such association is declining over years. However, I want to point out that our method does not require users to know whether a citation network is biased or not. I just want to use the example to point out that purely citation-based heuristic is not always effective in choosing the best evidence. So first, we computed the ratio between real and expected citation count for all nodes in the network and generated this histogram. First, you can see that the citations are highly unequal among the 73 papers. So one paper, CASP 2003, received 97% of its expected citation counts, whereas 16 papers, about 20%, received less than 10% of their expected citation count. And those papers, since they were cited many fewer times than expected, we think they deserve more attention from readers in case they represent marginalized views. Second, we computed the relative evidence coupling strengths for all node pairs in this network. There are 73 papers, so we get 2,628 pairs, and we generated a histogram as well. However, I want to point out that those data points are node pairs, not nodes. So we need to take a different approach than the previous case. First, we must understand that since a single paper can be involved in 72 pairs, it is quite common that a paper for a paper to find another paper in a data set with which this relative evidence coupling strength is small. And what we need to pay attention to are papers that always have a small relative evidence coupling strength with other papers. So to find those papers, we take all of the nodes involved in pairs falling in this region 0.321, and we subtract all of the nodes from the entire set of 73 nodes, and we get 8 nodes by the end, and those nodes or articles have never involved in any pair that has relative evidence coupling strength more than 0.3. So they are what we call unique papers. And in the network visualization, we can partition this network by the ratio between real and expected citation count. And here we find 4 tiers of papers. The papers that receive 10 to 90% of their expected citation count. Maybe users can just choose a few from them to read. And papers or those notes in pink, they receive less than 10% of their expected citation count. So we think they should they deserve more attention in case they represent marginalized views. And there's also a paper we call the authority because it received 97% of expected citation count. And also notice that there are 18 papers. They were published in the last 2 years of the data set, which is 2011-2012. Under the current method, their expected citation count are 0, and they do not have a value for this metric, so we leave them blank for now. And similarly, we can partition the network by relative evidence coupling strengths. We have a group of papers that users can choose a few to read, and we have a group of papers that users need to pay attention to because they're the unique papers. And so, however, notice that this metric, relative evidence coupling strengths, it selects papers that do not belong to any homophily groups. And there's still the question how we're going to distinguish homophily groups within those blue notes. And this is something for future work. Also, we envision an interface in the future that allow users to zoom in a part of the network and click a node and find information about the paper, for example, titles, DOIs, etc. On this slide, I printed out the paper selected by the 2 metrics, their publication year, and their stance codes. Notice that the intersection has all 3 stances, which meet our goal of selecting a diverse paper for readers to read. And there is nearly a 16.1% chance for a randomly selected set of 3 papers to cover all 3 stances. I also want to discuss the limitations of our current work. First, the way we calculated expected citation counts result in unrealistic values. For example, some later papers were expected to cite as many as 55 papers, which is quite unrealistic. And second, early papers were overselected by the relative evidence coupling strengths because being early papers, they have a diminished chance to share reference items with later papers. Finally, here is the list of items for future work. We're going to work on 4 aspects, including asking domain experts to evaluate whether those metrics did sample diverse research articles, and we need to involve the metrics, improve the visualization, and do larger scale studies to verify our methods. And this research is supported by Campus Research Board of University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. We thank the authors of the HTTLPR study for making their dataset available for reuse. And we thank Ms. Jung-He Van for assisting statistical calculations. Here is the reference list. Thank you very much for attending our presentation. Here are the contact information of me and my advisor, Professor Jody Schneider. Please feel free emailing us about questions, any comments. we're looking forward to them. Thank you very much.